So check it out. For as much time as I put into this song, which I was able to, instead of just do a minute-long demo like normal, made it a whole thing. So if you want to hear the finished track, that's on my SoundCloud. But for as much stuff as I put into it, this is a pretty straightforward video. So the first thing is using a double low-pass filter. It's something that you probably wouldn't think, oh, that's a great idea. But check it out. If I just turn off this second low-pass filter, back on, you can hear it's like just got a whole second batch of timbres. All it's doing is basically giving you a slightly different taste from one low-pass filter. And I've got this guy here to help me out. It's kind of controlling this one. No big deal. So if I take all the filters off and all the distortion off, you'll hear this sounds very similar to just like any old wavetable. Super boring. So throwing on 2 low-pass filters and a bunch of distortion, or yeah, hard clipper, parabolic shaper, Bronner tube, gives it just a little bit more character, so it's not a standard sawtooth. So 2 low-pass filters, very simple. So I think it was Brillz or somebody like that. You know, we'll give credit to Brillz for this. Kind of a standard trap thing now is taking a pretty simple sound and then messing with the pitch a bunch. So that's what I did. You just take a performer, get a bunch of cool shapes that are not doing this like it normally would do. It's just kind of going crazy. Every time it's either going from max to min, it's doing a jump. Only once here does it ever repeat. So all of that is just attached to the pitch, oscillator pitch, and so it doesn't sound terrible when this guy goes up, the modulation oscillator pitch as well. Listen to what it sounds like if it's not, if it's only this guy. Kind of gets all funky. So you want this to match it too. So I didn't even look ahead of time, but I'm gonna just investigate right now where 8. Here we go. Okay. So check it out. The reason I said crazy with 8 is I'm encouraging myself with this macro. Hey, these two should be played together. Notice how when this is down like this, the sound kind of dies out a little bit more, and when it's up, there's still volume that's going down, but the tone isn't. So let's just bring this guy up, which will allow us to hear the sound consistently. So the only place that I've got this, and I mean this isn't really good advice to just be like, hey, put a macro on one of your envelopes and it'll sound good, because this is very situational. But this envelope's job was to basically change the tone a little bit. That's it. You see this wavetable comes up, and then it eventually comes back down to where it's pointing at. Same thing here. It gets filtered out after this much time, decay amount of time. So what I did with this macro is I just basically said, hey, let's use the max of this tone here. And the reason I like a clean versus dirty macro is so it allows for builds, first of all. And fades. And it's just, you know, come on, just do it. So the tips here are pretty straightforward again. Attach a performer to the pitch, 2 octaves here, looks like. And in your macro title, if there's something that works well with it, put it in there with 8, with number 8. So it's very straightforward. You know, hey, I should maybe put these together. Another thing that I did while we're here, I think it's in the second drop somewhere. All right, let's go check it out. Right here. There we go. So took all the processing off. So again, it's just, well, okay, no I didn't. But I took the main bus processing off. Let me show you the difference between these two massive patches. It's the same one, but I just I took advantage of the fact that, hey, this sounded pretty good, but I didn't want to just have it be the same pattern this whole thing. Nope, wrong one. Here we go. I didn't want this pattern the whole time. Different versions of that. That just wasn't going to get me anywhere. And you can listen. You can hear that pattern in there. Whenever I allow it to be a really long MIDI note. But when it's using this performer, it's going to start here every single time. It's always going to give this downward shape. So what I wanted to do, so it wasn't just one drop of that the whole time, I duplicated this and I went down here to come up with a different shape. Also, I even changed the top shape just a little bit. See how this is a double here and this is a single? This was actually, you know what, I'm going to give myself just a little credit for this. Watch this fader right here. And starting now. Again. Well, automation's being a little funky. There we go. So basically what I did is I changed the ratio, the time over here, the rate, and I allowed myself to have more shapes here. I didn't want to change the original patch because it was sounding pretty good. So in summary, attach the performer to the pitch, remind yourself with macros what works, and duplicate this whole operation into another patch so you give yourself drop variety and it doesn't sound like the same old boring thing. So for this third thing, I just want to quickly talk about processing rather than just the massive presets. We've always kind of kept it to massive exclusively, but just so you are aware of how I treat the whole sound design process, I usually add external processing to my patches because it rounds it out, sounds a little bit better. It's overall a good call. So let me quickly go over what each of these is all about. I've got Reverb 1 and Reverb 2 here. This one is with Logic, and this one is UAD Reverb. So this one is on my track by itself, on the massive preset, the main one. The other one, this guy, is on the bus that contains all of my leads. So if you look here, anything that's kind of purplish right here, these all route into this guy. This is just blank. There's no notes here. These all get processed with these 3-4 plugins. And so this guy putting just a 4% wet-dry ratio, or percentage, whatever, it allows me to kind of, I'm going to say this, whatever, get over it. It kind of glues it all together. So rather than just having one reverb on my massive preset, I put it on everything, just a little bit, so they all have to share this common reverb. Double reverb is a dangerous game to play, so make sure that if you have one pretty heavy, go light on the other. Next, distortion. I've got Ozone Harmonic Exciter running. That's great. And Sausage Fattener. Wow, that's a shocker. Then this guy's kind of a little bit of a distortion. I think it used to be a version of like a multipressor, but now it's just something different. I don't even know. So it's called Vintage Warmer because that's kind of what it does. It just makes it sound a little bit more analog, which sounds pretty weird since we're using massive, but it gets the job done. It adds like a little bit of layering is almost the word I'll use. It just, instead of just adding like crunch to it, it gives it a little bit of spread and distortion at the same time. So it's pretty unique in that way. Use it. Transient Master. This is like this is a secret weapon of mine because I actually end up using it on almost everything because it's the shit. It focuses on giving a stronger punch, stronger bite to it, and it can also tighten up your sounds with sustain. So a good example of how I use this is like on snares. I've gotten like some crazy 80s snare sounds without too much work by using Transient Master, because you bring up the attack a little bit or bring it down if your sample is just a little too hot. That'll just make it snap a little bit more. And then sustain is, instead of it just ending where the sample normally does, it tries its best to push it out a little bit, extend it, or shorten it. So by shortening things, like I have done here, it tries to just put a little cap on it. It tries to just shut it down a little faster. So Transient Master, in a nutshell, is the best. Then I've got FabFilter Pro C to handle my side chaining. And this is just a sweet little Cytomic the Glue, great compressor. And this guy is different than most compressors because the reason compressors are called processors is because it takes the entire sound and processes it. Unlike reverb, which allows you to have a wet-dry effect, non-effect effect ratio or percentage like this, mix percentage, most compressors don't have that. So this one does, which is actually pretty cool because it's a small version of parallel compression. So it's not going to do the exact same thing as having a whole different channel dedicated to parallel processing, but the gist of it is if I had this knob all the way to 0, it's going to let only the dry signal through and none of these knobs will matter. If I bring all this up, it's going to just process it just like a normal compressor. Leaving it in the middle allows some of my original sound to come through and then a little bit of my process sound. So it's a sweet little tool. It works and it looks cool when you press play. Well, hold on. Sorry. Automation went crazy. See, how cool does that look? It's just use it for that reason, if no other. So that's kind of the processing that I try to use. And a word on what you want to try to shoot for is you want to make sure that your massive presets are not going to rely on this processing. Don't count on the fact that, oh, well, it doesn't sound very good. I'll put some extra stuff on it later. It's got to sound good coming out of the box or your tracks are not going to sound very good. Another thing is I try to steer clear from the massive reverb when I can. I don't care too much, but the massive reverb sounds like the massive reverb. So the more you can get away from that and use that effect slot for dimension expander, something kind of beefs it up a little bit, or classic tube. Woo. So that's why I've got 2 reverbs out here and none inside massive right now. So that's what I got for you today. I got a couple other tracks coming up here, and as always, send me a mastering request at ryan@occstudios.com. See you guys next time.
Who does good things. And when good things don't ensue, it's not as a result of the moral weakness of the actor, but of factors the actor could not control. Why are they doing this? Why does anybody do this? What's the purpose of this kind of inquiry? The purpose, of course, is self-protection.